Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. And as your wise man, I'm here to bestow upon you the wisdom that you're listening to Punks Talk Wrestling.
1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to Punks Talk Wrestling! On this episode, we pick up in December 2013 after AJ Styles was stripped of the championship as we dig into part 2 of our 3-part episode on the history of the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. I am RW Hellborn, the PA Rock Prince, hailing quote-unquote from Philly! And I am one half of the crowd, which is one half of your Punks Talk Wrestling Inter-Universal Tag Team Podcast Champion Host of the World! Now, then, and forever by my side, 3,500 miles away in London, England, he is my tag team podcast partner. He is the other half of the crowd, which is the other half of your Punks Talk Wrestling Inter-Universal Tag Team Podcast Champion of the world, Mr. Did You Know, Sir King of Reels, the proper brick, C.J. Newman!
Oh boy, did you know that the TNA... I'll try that again. Did you know that Kurt Angle held the TNA Championship 3 times in as little as 6 months? The man only had 6 championship reigns, but he held the championships 3 times in only 6 months. As we actually looked back on in the last episode, he was the first ever TNA World Heavyweight Champion, and he literally dropped the championship like a few days later.
Technically one day.
Yeah, won it at Sacrifice, lost it a day later and stripped due to a double fall, and he won it back at Slammiversary a month later, and then he lost the title to Sting 119 days later, and then won it back 2 days later in an episode of Impact. So
yeah, if you didn't listen to our first episode, I mean that was the first. Took us like almost 35 minutes to get through that.
Yeah,
we could have.
But yeah, 3 of those half of his title runs happened within just 6 months, and he was with that company for a hell of a long time. So it's quite funny.
There you go. There it is. All right.
And that's it.
Yeah, I mean,
and how's about we talk about more of the TNA World Heavyweight Championship title history?
Yeah!
All right, so
Cool.
let's just jump the fuck into it here. So we, as we said in the last time we did this, we don't know when this is airing. If it's going to be airing in airing. It's not live, is it? It's going to be released one week after another. But if you go back, listen to part 1 of this TNA Championship History series we're doing. We are up to 2013, from 2007 to 2013.
Yeah, we are in the
title tail end of 2013.
The title had just been, AJ Styles had just been stripped of the championship due to a contract dispute by TNA President Dixie Carter. The announcement was made via Twitter.
Yeah. So,
well,
which seems like was storyline, but then life imitated art, because I think he would then come back. There would be a TNA Championship versus TNA Championship match, and the winner would take both. And then eventually he would then leave TNA in December because they were trying to give him a 60% pay cut. So he was never going to say yes. Off he went to New Japan. So there was a tournament, obviously, to crown a brand new champion. So in the final of that match was Jeff Hardy versus Magnus, who we know now as my God, my brain. Nick Aldis, obviously. That's Magnus.
Oh, shit. You're right. Man.
Yeah.
I did not realize that. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, so to win the vacant title, this was a Dixieland match. Now, what's a Dixieland match, you ask?
I
Dixieland
was
match,
going to ask that. But you took the words right out of my
named
mouth.
after, obviously, TNA President Dixie Carter, who invented, in quotes, the match, is a hybrid steel cage / ladder match. The wrestlers start the match in the ring.
I like how it's in quote, even on Wikipedia. Shout out to Wikipedia. The word "invented" is in quotes because
Dixieland match is a hybrid steel cage ladder match. The wrestlers start the match in the ring enclosed in a steel cage. To win the match, a wrestler must climb out of the cage to go up to the entrance ramp where the championship belt is hung from the ceiling, and finally climb a ladder to retrieve the belt. The first match of this type occurred in Impact Wrestling Final Resolution, Magnus versus Jeff Hardy, which is the match we're on right now. So they like to really mix their matches up, didn't they? They like to.
Well, that is the attempt at trying to create something new is usually just shoving two things that already exist together in a way that's never been done before.
Yeah.
But just because it's never been done before, this is the Jurassic Park, they spent so much time thinking about whether they could, they never thought about whether they should. Like,
yeah, right.
What does that, without knowing how you got to the match, if they just made it up out of thin air for no apparent reason, or if there's some kind of way that it escalated to the point that this was needed.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just making something up. You're making a gimmick up for the sake of a gimmick, and that doesn't usually work too well, does it?
Exactly. I mean, TNA famously did I think it was the reverse battle royal. I thought something like that, where you had to get in the ring, Yeah. Anyway,
boy, they did, didn't? I mean,
But
here's the thing. Hey, man, swing for the fences. You don't always hit.
Yeah. I mean, I give TNA one thing: they always tried new shit out.
They tried.
Of all wrestling companies, in the last, as you said in the last episode of this series, wrestling's always, they've kind of done it all now with match types, but TNA are always trying to come up with different. Match types, whether they were shit or whether they were great.
I don't mean to shit. I mean, of course. You can look back at it in hindsight, and we can poke fun at it for the most part, because certain things are universally understood as that was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And so it's not like it's a hot take, or I'm not saying this to be edgy. It's just universally true.
Yeah.
But also, we're taking nothing away from the fact that they were trying to do things. And trying to do things is good, but what you had something already going, the 6-sided ring, and you threw it away. That was already your thing, and you had it. You didn't have to do any. You didn't have to do any of this other nonsense. You had a 6-sided ring.
Going on from what I was saying earlier, so this is the Dixieland match. He won the match, and then it was recorded on December 6th, but on the January 9th, 2014 episode of Impact, AJ Styles would return, claiming to be the legitimate World Heavyweight Champion, as we said.
Mm-hmm.
He was never defeated for the championship, though not recognized as such by TNA, and Magnus would then defeat him later that night to become the undisputed TNA champion. So that was that.
See, that's another one of those rules of professional wrestling that go out I mentioned it about the retirement matches last in the first part. Is if you hold the championship title of an organization, and that organization outright strips you of the title for whatever reason they decide, how can you claim you can say you never lost the title? Sure, you didn't lose the title, you were stripped, but you can't say you're the legitimate champion when the person who owns the championship says you're not. When
Yeah.
they have the power, regardless of kayfabe or not, whether it's real or however, whatever side of the curtain you're on. That's another one of those funny. That actually breaks kayfabe more than anything.
Yeah.
Trying to claim you're the champion of an organization that says you're not. It's like, no, it's our belt. We own this title. It is ours. It's not. Now there was the issue, and I guess part of the issues is maybe unless they're making the champion buy the actual physical belt like the NWA used to do, you had to.
Yeah.
I think you had to pay what $35,000 or something, and it was basically
essentially that. Yeah.
It's essentially
You're essentially renting it. Yeah.
You're becoming the champion because you're buying into the championship. The $35,000 that you're giving us is going to come back to you. But to be serious, but to know that you're serious, like you literally had to buy. You literally had to buy in to be the champion.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to on the history of the NWA championship multi-part episode.
Will do. Yeah.
With the way things are going, that'll be like an 8-part episode. Anyway, where are we at? Okay, Magnus. Jesus Christ, Magnus. Nick Aldis.
Magnus, whatever we call him, would hold the championship for 128 days, and he would go on to face Eric Young.
He looks like fucking Wolverine in that.
He does, doesn't he? He definitely looks a lot like.
He looks like he could be what's his name's cousin.
Oh yeah, who the fuck's his name?
The guy.
Yeah, Logan. Not Logan.
Logan Paul.
Fucking...
Logan is the name of the character. Yeah.
Yeah. Him, Hugh Jackman. That's it.
Hugh Jackman. Yeah. Jeez, we're.
Yeah. I know we're terrible with names lately.
We are. Well, there's so many.
Eric
There's
Young.
so many.
There are a lot of names in the world, right?
Yeah.
Eric Young would win the championship on an episode of Impact for a 70-day reign. In this match, if Magnus had been counted out or disqualified, he would have lost the title, and if anyone interfered in the match, they would have been fired.
That is a harsh stipulation.
Yeah.
Dixie Carter's making some bold, putting her foot down.
Yeah, she weren't fucking about in that match.
No. No.
So, yeah.
For better or for worse.
That's a 70-day title reign. And here comes Bobby Lashley. Now, Bobby Lashley had left the WWE many years before this, but I think he had a very brief MMA run.
I believe he did as well.
Yeah, he left WWE in 2008, which is kind of crazy. And then he had he was in on the independent circuit for a little bit. He joined TNA in 2009 to 2010. He was there very briefly, and then he came back properly for a proper run in 2014.
Oh, so independent. He went to Japan and independent again 2010, 2014.
Yeah,
nice.
But then he had a career in he did a MMA in 2008, 2009, and had a career in Strikeforce 2010 to 2011, and then a few other various promotions after that. But so this is Lashley's first world title since the ECW World Championship that he won. Let's not forget. So this is his first TNA Championship for 91 days, won an episode of Impact. I don't know if you're noticing, but we had a long run in 2000. In fact, the title changed only on Impact in all of 2014.
Yeah, and these are happening in Bethlehem, PA. Like, this is how not up on what was going on. Like, these are happening in my backyard.
Yeah, it sucks to say. Well, we're heading up to 2015, and we'll get to this in a second. So I'll bring something up, but this is like slowly the resurgence of TNA.
Oh yeah.
They were. It was like one of the many resurgences that they had, and because Dixie Carter was still with the company up until 2017. But I think she, Billy Corgan was involved, if you remember that, in 2016. So I think things started to get a little bit better towards 2015-16. But we'll get to that in a second. Anyway.
Yeah, because we got to get to this crazy the crazy delays in the episode airing on tape delays at this point too.
Yeah,
is
so much of it. constantly.
But yeah,
so
weirdly,
in Bobby Lashley's match. Oh, go ahead.
No, weirdly. So Lashley wins his first title on Impact in June 19th. If anyone besides MVP or Kenny King had interfered, they would have been fired. So MVP or Kenny King could have interfered, and they wouldn't have been fired in this match.
Yeah, which is so weird. That's such a weird stipulation. So, but I guess they're not allowed to interfere.
They're not allowed to interfere. They would have been.
But they wouldn't be fired.
Right, they wouldn't be fired because they were with MVP. So MVP and Lashley have had a long history together too. Obviously.
Oh, they go back a long way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think MVP is the one that reintroduced Bobby Lashley back into TNA in 2014.
Yeah.
So.
But okay, so next up from that, Bobby Roode, we're back at Bobby Roode's back for his
Bobby Roode's back again for his second title run, 111 days, again on Impact, September 18th.
But it aired on tape delay October 29th. They're airing over a month, like 5 weeks, 5 or 6
they
weeks.
They would, if they remember correctly, around this time TNA were recording like 5 episodes in a row.
Yeah.
Which is exhausting.
Well,
they were
in Bethlehem, so they were probably recording a bunch of stuff in the same location, like you do when you're because they certainly weren't coming up from Florida. I don't know. Well, I don't know. I can't say what they were or weren't doing. They
well, if you look, like Lashley won the championship in Bethlehem, PA, and Bobby Roode did too. Chances are they might have. I mean, actually, no, that was June. That was September. Probably not.
Could have been the same. Could have been like a week
same
later.
Taping.
Oh no, June. Well, that's what I mean. June, September.
Yeah, June and September. Yeah, it's a big jump. But
they might. Maybe they came up. Maybe they were individual runs up. They could have.
Yeah, they could have done. Bobby Roode then win the championship for the second time, 111 days. Again, tape delay October 29th, 2014. Kurt Angle was a special referee for that match. Lashley would then win the championship back. Only hold that championship for 24 days. That was on January 7th. That seems to have been live because there's no notes to say that was on tape delay.
Yep.
Kurt Angle would then win his final TNA Championship, his 6th and final, on the January 31st, 2015 episode. It was tape delay. That was filmed in January and aired in March.
Yeah, that's almost.
You must have a real big problem with spoilers at this time. Like, how are people? Someone's winning a championship and you're going to have to try and keep that. Well, you're not going to keep it secret, but for 2 months nearly.
Well, I guess here's the thing. Maybe the way they were positioning themselves or the way that the deal was, like, I don't know what else they were airing at the time, but I don't think they were trying to keep it secret. It's just you can't see it unless you were there live. You don't get to see it until
it airs on TV.
Until it airs on TV in 2 months. Yeah. So maybe that was their play of, like, if you want to really be a part of it, you better see it live. Otherwise, you're going to hear about it. And they could have been working to their advantage. I don't know. Whatever they did, they were keeping it moving.
Yeah, they kept it moving. So this was Kurt Angle's last title run.
They were in London.
It was 100, and in London as well. 145 days, and till this day, Kurt Angle, as a combined number, he held the championship for 608 days, which is more than any other person in history. So with that run, he's the longest reigning.
Yeah, we should check that
combined.
Out. We should check that out. I want to see what date that is.
Well, the London one.
Yeah. Third and final night of the TNA 2015 Maximum Tour, which took place January 31st at the Wembley Arena. All right.
No, it was Wembley. I was going to ask what venue it was.
TNA, was that? So that was TNA Lockdown?
No, Impact.
No, it was an Impact. Okay, yeah. It'd be nice if there's a way to watch. I want to see that. Anyway, all right.
So EC3, or Ethan Carter III, as we knew him back then, would make his
Michael Hutter.
I mean, let's have a look. I mean, how long had he been He did actually have a brief stint in NXT and OVW until and Florida Championship Wrestling, but that didn't go great for him. And then he went to TNA. So he'd been in TNA since 2013 at this point. So he'd been there for a couple of years. Obviously started from the bottom, and now he's here.
Mm-hmm.
EC3. So that was June 25th, 2015. Another episode of Impact once again, but didn't air till July 1st, which is only a week later. So that's not so bad. And here we go. This is the first title change on a pay-per-view in nearly 2 years. Wow. The last title change on a pay-per-view was when Magnus won the championship when it was vacated. Every other championship since title change since then was on Impact. So Matt Hardy. Yeah. Here comes Matt Hardy. So this is at a time when TNA was having a bit of a resurgence, thanks to, honestly, Matt Hardy, because this is when he started the whole broken Matt Hardy stuff.
Oh, okay, that's where it started,
and that's where a lot of eyes turned towards TNA, because he was obviously doing this proper out there stuff.
Yeah, and they were letting them. To their credit, I mean, they did it with Jeff early on too, and like they're letting the Hardys do Hardy stuff because people like to see the Hardys do Hardy things. So
right. So this was at Bound for Glory. Is a three-way with Drew Galloway.
Yeah. This is the era where Drew McIntyre was no longer with the WWE. And he was in TNA. Yeah,
so this is EC3, Drew Galloway, and Matt Hardy. And Jeff Hardy was actually the special guest referee, which is favoritism.
Yeah, that really sounds like a conflict of interest.
Yeah, right. Unless they were in a rivalry at the time, who knows?
Were they ever?
They were in TNA, I think, at one point. I might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they were. Yeah.
All right.
So then that title reign only lasted for 2 days, because the following episode of Impact, it was the title was vacated due to a legal injunction filed by EC3 or Ethan Carter III as part of a storyline.
Right, and is this also where is this the Ethan Carter, like it's Dixie Carter's grandson or son?
Yeah, I think there was some sort of
We're gonna lean into are they related, whether real or in storyline, because it's not his real name, obviously.
Yeah. So that was vacated, and then Carter III would then defeat Matt Hardy in the finals of a TNA World Title Series to win the vacated championship.
All right, so Matt Hardy stripped of the title, gets back in the tournament to crown the new title, loses to EC3, but then wins it back again in Bethlehem, PA. 3 days later.
Again, Bethlehem, PA has seen a lot of title changes. I guess they filmed there a lot. So, Matt Hardy.
You know what? There was a new. This is 2015, 2016. They had. This is when they opened the casinos up there, and so they were looking to bring. The area. Bethlehem is near Allentown. It's the same. Like there's a lot of wrestling history up here, which is which is weird. But yeah, they were bringing in stuff to the new center.
Right. Okay. Cool. So Matt Hardy, only 3 days later after Ethan Carter III won the TNA title, the vacated championship that he got off Matt Hardy, essentially, Matt Hardy would win it 3 days later in a last man standing match. And in this match, had Matt Hardy not won, he would have to leave TNA. So this was aired on January 19th. 67-day reign for Matt Hardy. And here comes Drew Galloway, or Drew McIntyre, as we know him now.
Well, as we knew him then, too, before that.
Yeah. So Drew Galloway had obviously left the WWE, had a stint in...
Had been let go, had been fired.
you had been fired. And
Oh my God! Can you believe they let? I can't believe they let. They've been they ruined. They underutilized him. He was under. Yeah.
And all that shit. So he left the company in 2014. Well, got fired from the company in 2014, and then from 2014 to 2017. I mean, he was all over the place. He obviously came to TNA in 2015, but at the same time, he was wrestling in Evolve. He was also wrestling in ICW, Insane Championship Wrestling in Scotland as well. So he was everywhere.
He was wherever he wanted to be. He was
basically, he was doing what he was kind of one of the forefathers of what a lot of wrestlers do now, which is kind of like Matt Cardona is doing now. Like Drew McIntyre did it first in a way.
Yeah, well, from the position of well known in WWE to go in that direction.
That's not to diminish what Matt Cardona does. And
but specifically from a position of
he was one of the first guys to really thrive after being fired from the WWE.
A lot of dudes of the era before that, they just didn't do as much.
Yeah, and then not only that, obviously we've seen a lot of people come from WWE to TNA and thrive and succeed, but to see someone low on the card leave and then become an even better, improved version of themselves, just like Drew McIntyre, just like Matt Cardona's done. Like, he was low on the card and he left.
Yeah,
and become a success everywhere.
They found their only way. The only way they would have become who they are now is through that path that they took. That it doesn't always happen that way. Yeah.
Drew Galloway would win the championship. He invoked his Feast or Fired championship opportunity to challenge Matt Hardy for the championship and win the title. Feast or Fired is basically a Money in the Bank situation, based on the idea of but you win it. It's an object on a pole match, not a ladder match situation. And basically the wrestler can only. Oh, right, yeah, so this is it. Just in case it wasn't confusing enough.
Okay.
Based on the object on a pole match, which sees wrestlers trying to gain possession of items hanging from poles attached to the ring posts.
Yep.
In this case, the participants in the match try to grab one of 4 briefcases on the poles. In the match itself, a wrestler only claim a briefcase if he or she leaves the ring with it and both feet touch the floor.
It's fucking Deal or Deal. It's like Deal or No Deal Island.
Yeah, but you have to.
You pick.
Yeah, you have to.
You grab a briefcase,
leave the ring,
and you don't know, and you don't know what's in, and it's a mystery of what's in each one. So you might be the first one to grab a briefcase, but it might not have the actual title match clause in it or whatever. Yeah. Again, they're. And I guess one of the things is you're fired. That's what.
So the winners of the briefcase do not reveal what is in them on that night. Instead, they are revealed in the segment later on in the episode on Impact. Before the contents of the cases are revealed, each wrestler is given a choice to keep their case or forfeit it, which protects the wrestler from being fired, but also gives up any potential match.
Mm-hmm.
Once a wrestler wins a briefcase, it may be or has been defended in matches similar in the way that championships are. So, one of those ones in one of those briefcases, you would be fired as well. So it's a cool concept. I mean,
sure,
it adds different. It's different.
Yeah, and I will say this: I do always like they did it briefly for a time with the King of the Ring. You could win. Yeah. You could win the King of the Ring title by defeating the King of the Ring in a match for the King of the Ring title. And I always love the ability of the person who has something. It's also why I can't wait for the People's Championship title match, because it's going to happen one day where The Rock is going to put up the title of the People's Champion in a match for the People's Championship title. So I dig that. I don't know if they ever. I think they did it once or maybe twice with the Money in the Bank, where someone put up their Money in the Bank briefcase in a match, and I think you should be able to. I should be able to put up whatever my collateral is, as long as it's not another person. If I've got a thing and you want my thing, and you convince me to put my thing in a match, it's why not?
Yeah. Where are we now?
We are at Bobby Lashley.
Drew Galloway.
No.
So Drew Galloway holds the championship for 89 days, and here comes Lashley. Once again,
Lashley.
Anniversary. June 12th, 2016. This was a knockout or tap-out only match.
Okay.
Lashley won the TNA X Division Championship, defeating then-champion Eddie Edwards in a title versus title steel cage match. On August 11th, 2016, Lashley also won the TNA King of the Mountain Championship by defeating then-champion James Storm in a title versus title match. The following day, Lashley retired the TNA King of the Mountain Championship and vacated the X Division Championship.
So
very briefly there,
Lashley had
all 3 championships that he could win in TNA. Yeah,
but then would on the same night
retire.
Was this all? Oh no.
Over a series of months, it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually kind of remember this period of time. Yeah, and the King of the Mountain Championship was
it's right there.
retired.
It's August. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and this was a 113-day title reign. And then he would
that is pretty fucking rad.
Yeah, pretty cool that they just had all the championships.
Yeah.
He would then go on to lose the championship to Eddie Edwards on an episode of Impact.
Eddie Edwards is, of course... Eddie Edwards. Eddie Edwards. He's just Eddie Edwards. But he's still wrestling in TNA as part of the. He's a member of the system.
I think he's a member of the system. So he's still in TNA. Yeah.
So
been there for a long, long time.
Yeah. So this is almost 10 years ago. 9 years ago.
Yeah, I joined TNA in 2014.
All right.
So he's been there a very long time.
All right, yeah, been there 10 years, but this is...
Yeah, over 10 years now.
Gave him a shot at the title for a bit there.
Yeah. So he had the championship for 97 days, and then Lashley would then win the championship back for the 4th time. 175-day title reign. This was the 30-minute IMO match. The episode aired on a tape delay, obviously. On March 2nd, 2017, the championship was renamed to the Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Championship following the renaming of the promotion.
Yeah,
now,
so this is a whole other thing.
This is where things get fucking messy.
Because
right.
of course they do. Because why wouldn't there be? Yeah.
So let's skip over and have a little bonus title history here. So we all know Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett was basically him and his dad created TNA Wrestling, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling.
Right.
And that was, he left the company, I believe, in 2011, maybe. 2000, yeah, it was around 2011.
Was that right? It was right after WCW went out of business, right?
No. That was 2001.
That was 2000. Oh shit! That was 2000.
TNA in 2002, and then he was in charge. And in 2011, about a few years, I guess, 4 years or so after. Basically, it's when Dixie Carter got involved. Dixie Carter became like the sole, basically Jeff Jarrett had to sell his share, I guess. He didn't like that, and it went all tits up, as we'd say in the UK, and he left TNA. The company he created, he had no part in it at all, and he went off to Mexico and all sorts of stuff. When Jarrett left the TNA, he did actually say at the time that he was going to create a brand new promotion. And that was in 2011 or so. So in 2014, he announced Global Force Wrestling. So it was basically a very, very short-lived promotion. But the thing is, there was a lot of only 4 years. It's like very small-time promotion. But they were doing something, I guess, they were trying to work with other promotions, so they were doing something quite ahead of their time because they were trying to work with like AAA, New Japan, like other companies in the UK as well. They had JR and Matt Striker on commentary. Like they had some, and they had like Bullet Club members on their roster. Like they were doing pretty damn well, honestly. The idea of it was really, really good.
Yeah,
but it just, I don't know really what happened. So the company was technically owned by him and Karen Jarrett. Going back to the last episode, Karen Jarrett is Kurt Angle's ex-wife, I believe.
Yeah.
So they announced in 2017, which is a few years after the inception of the company, that they would be fusing with, they would become one with TNA. And it was announced that the parent company, Anthem Sports, which I believe still own TNA, had come to an agreement to acquire the rights of Global Force Wrestling.
Yeah.
So Impact Wrestling rebranded and took on the Global Force Wrestling name. It's confusing. I said it was confusing.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, just read it. Yeah, it still doesn't make sense why you would. The biggest question of what is why they wanted to do that at all. Like why did they take the name Global Force Wrestling that was such a newer name with no history? I don't know. Well, because of reasons, I guess.
Jeff Jarrett took on an indefinite leave of absence from the company. Anthem slowly reverted to using the Impact Wrestling name. So they changed their name for less than a year. I don't know, months even.
Yeah.
And then in October 23rd, it was officially back to Impact Wrestling again. The deal for Anthem was to acquire GFW was never completed, and Jeff Jarrett continues to own the rights of GFW. So the company still technically exists.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's easy to own the rights to something that's not doing nothing. That you're not doing nothing with.
But yeah, so
the point is,
with all that,
the point is there were two.
So there were the GFW Championship was the first ever champion was Nick Aldis, won on the GFW Amped episode, which I think is their TV.
Yeah.
Presumably at the very start of it. He defeated Bobby Roode to become the inaugural champion.
Okay, but why? Okay, but what happened to Lashley? What?
And then
how did Lashley lose the? Did Lashley lose the title? Like why did Lashley's title reign end?
Oh, we'll get there. So
okay,
Alberto El Patron, or Alberto Del Rio as we know him in the WWE, he would then defeat Nick Aldis. Nick Aldis held the GFW Championship for 547 days. Mind you, there weren't many GFW events.
Okay, this is when GFW. This is while GFW was operating independently
by itself.
Of Impact.
That's
okay.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Alberto El Patron would defeat Nick Aldis on an episode of Impact in 2017 when they were trying to fuse the two companies together.
Oh, and because
this would then go on.
So
Alberto El Patron had a world championship, and Bobby Lashley had a world championship.
Bobby Lashley had the actual TNA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That match was against Bobby Lashley, the unification match.
Yeah, exactly.
And he beat him.
Yeah, he beat him. So Alberto Del Patron, whatever the fuck.
So it makes sense. So from a standpoint of trying to find some logical reason for it, Alberto was the GFW champion, and he beat Bobby Lashley, who was the TNA champion. So the GFW championship is the one that retains. It's unified.
Yes.
It's unified, but that's the logical reasoning I can come up with as to why, if you had to logic yourself into that, because yeah.
So,
Because that, that's at least, that's the logical reasoning I can come up with as to why, if you had to logic yourself into that, because yeah.
Yeah, so there was a unification match, and then I guess the championship that reigned supreme was it was then renamed.
So that's why
they renamed to the Unified GFW World Heavyweight Championship.
And they did it probably because they were trying to they were trying to do something shocking.
Yeah. So they unified the championships, and then only 43 days later, we won't get into why, but due to personal issues, Alberto El Patron had to vacate his championship.
Due to reasons why we always mention his name with disdain when we have to bring it.
So he was suspended, and he had to vacate his championship. And then August 17th, 2017, Eli Drake, or as we better know now as LA Knight, won the GFW, the Unified GFW World Heavyweight Championship. In a 20-man gauntlet for the gold match. This is like a 20-man gauntlet match. So Eli Drake would then pin Eddie Edwards to win the match once they were the last two wrestlers. The championship took the GFW Global Championship name while retaining the TNA World Heavyweight Championship history. And on August 24th, 2017, the championship was renamed the Impact Global Championship.
Yep. That is...
Fucking hell.
That is what is happening here. And
so,
Now here's the other... Now, you probably have this up as well. During... is this now the time period? Are we in... No, we're in 2017.
2017.
Okay. There's more. It might be in part 3 that we get into into more.
Oh yeah, I think I know. We'll get to that's definitely later. But so in a space of 2 months, less than 2 months, the company went under a name change from Impact Wrestling to Global Force Wrestling to Impact Wrestling. In fact, fuck that. Let's start that again. The promotion was renamed in January 8th, 2017 for TNA Wrestling to Impact Wrestling.
Yep.
Then in July, it was renamed to Global Force Wrestling. And then in August, it was renamed back to Impact Wrestling. It went over 3 name changes, and the World Heavyweight Championship for that company went under about 4 different name changes in a space of a year. This was definitely one of probably the most tumultuous times in TNA's history, where if there was ever a time it looked like it was going to potentially shut down, it's probably around now.
Yeah, aside from the pandemic.
Aside from the pandemic.
Because it's such a mess, and the reasons behind it don't make any sense. And they lost. They were losing all of the things that made them cool and made them unique, and it and when you change your identity so many times like that, people can't keep up. How are people supposed to know what's actually going on and what matters when when it's about stuff that people don't really care about? Like, I see it. So we've got Eli Drake as the Global Force Wrestling Championship with now the TNA World Heavyweight Championship lineage.
Yeah, and now it's called the Impact Global Championship. This is what
now
this championship
it's Impact.
Now called.
Yeah, because now it's Impact Wrestling, and now it's
back to Impact Wrestling, and I guess they're keeping a slight bit of the name because the Global Force Championship was also is never known as a World Championship. It was also always known as a Global Championship.
The Global Force Championship. Yeah. GWF Global Championship. Well, see, but see, there's an instance where they luckily get to have a play on it because, and this might have been Jeff Jarrett's a little bit of forethought into the business, is he named the title something different than World, Yeah. It's just like when WWE had the Universal Championship.
Yeah.
This is the Global Force Wrestling, so they're reiterating the global and turning it and using the term global championship makes it distinct from for this entire purpose. Is now they have a backup where it's like, well, it's not a world championship, it's a global championship. What the fuck is the difference? Well, one's global and one's for the world. They're different. They've got different words held by different people. You know, how is the undisputed heavyweight champion and the world heavyweight champion different? They're different because we say they're different.
Yeah,
and the people make you believe it matters on the levels in which they actually matter. Anyway, so here comes Austin Aries for his second title victory. Like we said, this is where it became the Impact World Championship.
Yeah, back to now the Impact Championship, and I think that's where we said we were gonna. I think this
is a good part to cut the second part. You know, we give you a big like meaty. We front load episode 1. It's like the double episode of a nice series.
Yeah, there was the really confusing part of the championship history.
Yeah,
and then we go into what I would probably call a good run into the modern day. The next episode would be a good run into the modern day version of TNA.
Yeah, this is the next
resurgence.
Yeah, next episode 3 is going to be, as any good story is, a good trilogy. There's going to be there's some crazy shit that we're going to get into in the Impact Wrestling era, the 2018 and beyond. We're probably episode 3 is going to be a little chunkier than it might not be chunkier than episode 1, but it's definitely going to be chunkier.
Probably be out about as chunky as
I mean,
1,
I think we're going to
but yeah, so yeah.
All right. Well, so with that, yeah, I think it's going to be. I think for ease of anything, we're going to air these in succession. Maybe, I don't know. Fuck, we still don't know how this is going to pan out. It depends on what else we record in the interim.
Exactly, yeah.
But before we get to anything else that's happening in the future, a shout out to Wikipedia. Support Wikipedia. That's where we get all the information for this episode. Shout out to Al at 2K and Kaylee at 2K UK. WWE 2K25 pre-ordered now at WWE.2K.com. This stuff might be out of date information by the time this comes out, so don't hold me to it. But yeah, you can still pre-order or just order at the website. Do it. Fucking do it. Subscribe for free at patreon.com/smacks. Patreon.com/Punks Talk Wrestling. Support the podcast, get bonus content and bonus points. Those bonus points are good for the redemption of them for things that are yet to be determined as the amount of points that you get as a bonus for anything that you may or may not do. Interact on social media at Instagram and Threads at Punks Talk Wrestling and youtube.com/Punks Talk Wrestling. You can also email us at punkstalkwrestling@gmail.com. And yeah, next week's episode is going to be whatever either part 3 or something else that we've recorded before.
Who knows? Find out.
Yeah.
Tune in next week.
Yeah.
On Punks Talk Wrestling.
Yeah, I like that new outro.
Yeah.
Tune in next week. All right.
Yeah, like it's ended like it.
Yeah,
TV show.
but we should end it there.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Hey man, no. See, that's good. Like if I like a good little like a 45-minute run is where it's probably what we want to shoot for a lot of things. But this, with these histories, it's easy to kind of break them up where they just feel where they feel.
It's really good. I mean, I looked at the NWA one is like over 100 champions.
Yeah, that's gonna take some time, and I think we should do the history of all other championships that matter before we get to that.
And there's a lot of championship histories are fun because it goes over so many different companies sometimes, depending on the championship. I mean, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I'd love to look at the AAA championship and the New Japan.
All of those because they've all got ties to NWA in one way or another.
Yeah, and and just all around the world. So they go back to the 70s and things like that. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see that. All right, intro time.